Welcome to Max Life Man, your essential YouTube channel, expertly led by our top expert, Dr. Sterling Thorne. Dr. Thorne and his elite team from the Evergreen Peaks Institute bring decades of research and clinical wisdom in men's health. We deliver grounded, heartfelt, and practical podcasts to help men over 60 restore vitality, intimacy, and strength naturally. Now let me ask you something most men over 60 never say out loud. Is it still okay to masturbate at my age? You won't find that question on a pharmacy label. You won't hear it in the gym locker room, and most doctors, they avoid it like it's shameful. But here's the truth. Every time you stimulate your body, you're also activating your prostate, testing your testosterone response, and triggering a biological cascade that can either help or quietly harm you. And if you've been struggling with nighttime urination, swelling, fatigue, low drive, or wondering whether your libido is gone for good, this might be the one video that finally puts the pieces together. We're talking natural solutions, libido after 60, BPH relief, and what happens when senior men ignore or misuse their most private biological systems. But before we begin, I want you to do one thing. Backhand index pointing right tap that like button if you've ever wondered whether you're doing this part of your health right. And leave a comment below. 1 if this topic hits home. 0 if it's still taboo in your circle, because if there's one thing I've learned after working with thousands of men over 60, the problem isn't aging. It's ignoring the signals your body is desperately trying to send. Let's decode them, starting now. What masturbation does to the aging prostate. Let's talk about the most overlooked engine in a man's body, the prostate. It's about the size of a walnut, tucked beneath your bladder, and in your younger years you probably never noticed it. But after 60, it starts whispering or shouting. You wake up 2, maybe 3 times a night to pee. You feel pressure, a weak stream, a sense of never fully empty. And then the question sneaks in. Is it something I'm doing wrong? Could it be the masturbation? Here's what most men don't realize. Every time you ejaculate, your prostate contracts. It squeezes. It pushes fluid, not just sperm, but prostatic fluid through your urethra. This is normal, natural, necessary. But in an aging prostate, especially one dealing with benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, or low-grade inflammation, those contractions can either relieve pressure or irritate an already swollen system. So the real answer isn't should I stop? It's what's my prostate telling me? Some men feel relieved after ejaculation, less bloated, less pressure, fewer night trips to the bathroom. Others feel tender, sore, even agitated, like their pelvic region just got worked over instead of reset. According to a 2021 review in the Journal of Urology, men over 60 who reported moderate, consistent sexual activity, including masturbation, had fewer urinary symptoms than men who abstained completely. But the key word? Moderate, not daily, not compulsive, not every time you're bored, just enough to keep the system flowing and not enough to provoke inflammation. Your prostate isn't asking you to stop, it's asking you to listen. And here's the truth no one wants to admit. For many men, the guilt they feel after masturbation is more damaging than the act itself. You're not doing anything shameful. You're maintaining a part of your anatomy that affects your urination, your erections, your sleep, and your sense of vitality. This is not about lust. It's about circulation, balance, awareness. So no, masturbation isn't bad for your prostate, but doing it without understanding your aging body, that's where the trouble starts. The testosterone connection. Does masturbation help or hurt? Let's tackle the hormone question. The real one that's been whispering in the back of every older man's mind. Is masturbating lowering my testosterone? You've probably heard the myths, that it drains your manhood, that the more you ejaculate, the more your T levels drop, that every time you release, you lose power like a leaking tire. Sounds convincing, right? But here's the truth. That idea is wildly outdated and scientifically inaccurate. According to a 2020 clinical study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, ejaculation causes a temporary drop in testosterone, often lasting just a few hours. And this is critical, your baseline levels bounce back to normal shortly afterward. There is no evidence that healthy masturbation causes long-term testosterone decline. None. In fact, complete abstinence has been linked to increased irritability, poor sleep, and even testosterone dysregulation, especially in older men. Why? Because testosterone isn't just a sex hormone. It's tied to mood, metabolism, muscle maintenance, bone density, and even memory. And when the body is under constant mental stress, sexual frustration, or shame, your cortisol rises. And high cortisol suppresses testosterone production far more aggressively than masturbation ever could. So here's what really hurts your testosterone: chronic stress, poor sleep, sedentary lifestyle, inflammation, shame-based suppression of healthy release. Now let me flip the question to you. Have you ever gone through a dry spell and felt less focused, more foggy, more on edge? Or the opposite, found that occasional release made you feel relieved, centered, even more confident? Drop a comment below, backhand index pointing right 1 if you've ever noticed your mood or energy shift after a release. Backhand index pointing right 0 if you think it doesn't make a difference at all. Because here's what I've seen in thousands of men over 60. It's not about the act. It's about the mindset. Masturbation done with guilt can leave you drained. But masturbation done with awareness and intention can actually support your hormonal balance. You're not leaking manhood, you're learning how to manage it. 2 questions, 1 truth. Sometimes the comments say more than the science, and sometimes they ask exactly what the rest of us are too afraid to say. Here's one I read last week from a viewer named Frank, 72. Doc, I'm not gonna lie, I still do it. But every time I feel pathetic afterward. Like I'm clinging to something I should have outgrown decades ago. I don't even feel like a man anymore. And then this one from Miguel, 63. I stopped completely last year, cold turkey, thought it would cleanse me, but now I feel disconnected from everything. No drive, no interest in sex, no spark, like I unplugged something. 2 men, 2 very different experiences, but the same root question. Is masturbation helping me or hurting me? Here's my answer: it depends who's doing it. Not the name, not the age, but the state of mind. If you're doing it out of habit, shame, secrecy, chances are it feels like weakness, because you're not in it. You're avoiding something else: stress, boredom, fear of closeness, or the ghost of your past self. But if you're doing it from a place of awareness, a way to check in with your body, release built-up pressure, reconnect with your physiology, then it's not pathetic. It's precise. Here's something they don't teach in medical school: the intention behind the action often determines its effect. Frank, your shame isn't coming from the act. It's coming from the belief that you're less of a man for still needing connection. But the body doesn't lie. If the impulse is still there, it means your system hasn't shut down. It means you're alive, and that deserves respect, not ridicule. Miguel, you're shut down. That's not discipline. That's disconnection, and it's costing you more than you realize: energy, confidence, intimacy, and even hormonal function. Here's what I want every man over 60 to hear. You don't need to be ashamed of wanting. And you don't need to be ruled by it either. You need to learn to relate to it. Because desire in later life isn't juvenile, it's not a leftover. It's proof that your body hasn't given up on you, so maybe you shouldn't give up on it either. The hidden risk of abstinence: pride. There's a certain look I've seen on the faces of many older men. It's subtle, proud, a little guarded, and it comes right before they say this. I've cut it all out, doc, cold turkey, no sex, no self-pleasure, no urges, I'm done with all that nonsense. And then they smile, like they've conquered something, like they've finally matured past desire. But underneath that pride, I often see something else: fatigue, irritability, restlessness, loneliness, and sometimes deep, unspoken grief. Now, let's be clear, there is nothing wrong with choosing celibacy. Some men feel truly at peace that way. And if it's working beautifully, I support it fully. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the men who choose abstinence not from peace, but from pain. Not because they feel fulfilled, but because they feel disconnected, afraid, ashamed. And they've convinced themselves that desire is something to outgrow instead of something to understand. Here's the hidden risk of abstinence pride. Your prostate doesn't stop needing circulation. Your testosterone doesn't stop responding to signals. Your brain doesn't stop requiring reward feedback loops to maintain motivation and mood. When you cut off all sexual expression without replacing it with connection, movement, creativity, or deeper emotional intimacy, you don't become stronger. You become compressed. Emotionally, energetically, physiologically. I've seen men who proudly declared their abstinence for years, only to come back with symptoms they couldn't explain. Low energy, poor sleep, increased inflammation, depression, even erectile dysfunction that wasn't there before. Why? Because when we suppress biology instead of partnering with it, we create tension where there should be flow. This isn't about indulgence. This isn't about returning to teenage patterns. This is about healthy release, physical, emotional, hormonal, in a body that still functions, still speaks, and still deserves to be heard. The absence of sex doesn't guarantee clarity, and the absence of masturbation doesn't prove discipline. It only proves disconnection if you've stopped listening to your body. A letter from Thomas, 69 years old and still learning. I want to read you a letter today. It came from a man named Thomas, 69 years old, retired postal worker, 3 kids, widowed 7 years ago, and this is what he wrote. Doctor, Thorne, I never thought I'd be writing something like this to a podcast, but your video about aging and intimacy hit me hard. Not because I've lost desire, but because I've buried it. After my wife passed, I felt like wanting anything touch, release, closeness was disrespectful to her memory. I shut it all down. For 5 years, I didn't touch myself, didn't date, didn't even think about it. But lately, I've been waking up in the middle of the night with tightness in my chest, not from grief, but from something I can't explain, not pain, just pressure. Like there's a part of me I've silenced for too long, and now it's knocking from the inside. I'm not looking for advice. Just wanted to say thank you for reminding me I'm still allowed to be a whole person, even now, even after everything. Thomas, if you're watching this, I heard every word, and I want to say something back. Something not from a doctor, but from one man to another. You didn't betray her. You didn't betray your grief. You just remembered you're alive. Grief is not the end of desire. It's just what happens when love collides with absence. And wanting still to feel human, to feel whole, doesn't dishonor the past. It honors your continuing, your choosing, your becoming. We don't talk enough about this. About how many older men are walking through life like silent monks, thinking that to age well means to be empty. But emptiness isn't virtue. It's a warning light. Thomas, your body didn't forget what connection feels like. It just waited patiently until your spirit was ready to come back home. And to every man listening right now, you are not the only one. You are not the only one who's felt a quiet ache where there used to be fire. You are not the only one waking up to your own permission. So let me ask you this. Backhand index pointing right, have you ever felt like Thomas? Backhand index pointing right, like you shut off something not because it was wrong, but because you didn't know you were still allowed. Let me know in the comments, or just say, I'm still learning. We'll know what it means. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. Not because I need numbers, but because somewhere out there is another man like Thomas, waiting for a sign that he's not the only one still figuring it out. Still doing it at 75. Here's what actually matters, so let me tell you about Arthur. Arthur's 75. He plays golf twice a week. Drives a 2003 Toyota Camry he refuses to trade in. And he swears by his morning coffee, crossword puzzles, and a very specific evening routine. I asked him once straight up, Arthur, you still masturbating? He blinked, leaned in, and said, Son, if you've got an engine, why would you leave it idle? I almost fell out of my chair. Now Arthur isn't a hormone expert. He's not quoting medical journals. But he understands something most men don't say out loud. It's not about how often you do it. It's about how well you understand why you still want to. So let me clear something up. If you're in your 70s and you still have the urge to masturbate, you're not weird. You're not desperate. You're not behind. You're alive. According to a 2022 report from the American Association for Retired Persons, ARP, over 53% of men aged 70-79 report regular sexual thoughts or activity, including self-stimulation. That's more than half. So if you're in the club, you're in good company. The real question isn't, should I stop? It's asterisk, is it serving me? Is it helping me sleep, relax, feel connected? Or is it something I rush through, hide from, feel worse after? Asterisk, because at this age, you don't need quantity, you need quality and clarity. Arthur, for example, doesn't measure success in seconds. He treats it like stretching after golf, like changing the oil, like checking in with a part of his body that still works and thanking it for showing up. And by the way, if you're still watching this video, still asking questions, still curious about how to age with energy, intimacy, and grace, then you're already ahead of the curve. Backhand index pointing right, and hey, since Arthur's watching this too, and I promised him I'd say this, don't be shy. Hit that subscribe button before your Camry does. That one was for you, Art. Now let's talk about what happens when men stop asking questions entirely. Because that silence, that's the most dangerous part of all. The most dangerous kind of silence in older men, let me say something that might sting a little. Most men don't die from disease. They die from disconnection, not from the heart, but from the self, from the body they stopped asking about, from the urges they stopped listening to, from the questions they buried because no one ever gave them permission to speak them aloud. And that is the most dangerous kind of silence. It's the man who hasn't touched himself in years, not because he doesn't want to, but because somewhere deep inside, he decided he no longer deserves to feel anything. It's the man who hasn't had a real conversation about his health in a decade, but nods politely at his urologist like everything's fine. It's the man who wakes up at 2:00 a.m., with an ache in his pelvis, his chest, his soul, and says nothing, because he thinks silence is dignity. But silence is not dignity. Silence is decay in disguise. According to the National Council on Aging, men over 65 are significantly less likely than women to seek help for physical pain, emotional distress, or sexual health concerns. And yet they suffer more, in silence, in shame, in isolation. So let's be clear about something. You don't earn honor by becoming a ghost. You don't earn respect by pretending you don't feel. And you don't become stronger by acting like your body doesn't matter anymore. You're not just a caretaker, not just a provider, not just someone whose best years are a memory in a photo album. You are still in here. And if your body still sends signals, desire, curiosity, tension, heat, those are not distractions. They are invitations. Invitations to stay engaged, to remain present, to reclaim the conversation. Because aging isn't what steals vitality. Avoidance does. Pretending you no longer need care, comfort, or connection, that's the silence that steals your life in slow motion. So before we move on, I want you to sit with one question. What have you been too quiet about for too long? Don't answer me, not yet. Just answer yourself. Because sometimes, the first sign of healing is when a man hears his own voice again. How to rewire your mind and body after 60. Let's get one thing straight. You're not restarting your engine. You're rewiring the control center. Because what worked at 30, what turned you on, calmed you down, or got you through the night might not serve you anymore. But here's the good news. Your nervous system is still listening, and it can still change. They used to say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, neuroscience disagrees. According to a 2023 study published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience, older adults retain plasticity, the ability to form new neural connections, especially when engaging in intentional self-awareness practices. Translation: you can teach your brain to respond to pleasure, release, and regulation differently at 60, 70, even 80. And that includes how you relate to masturbation, intimacy, and sexual energy. So here's how we begin. 1. Rethink the act itself. Don't treat masturbation like a reflex, a chore, or a secret shame. Make it intentional. Set aside time, not just during boredom. Breathe slowly. Stay present. Don't rush to finish. Focus on feeling. You're not trying to get it over with. You're trying to rebuild connection between your brain, your body, and your inner sense of agency. 2. Anchor it to wellness, not guilt. You brush your teeth. You stretch your legs. You release pressure from your bladder. Why should caring for your prostate, blood flow, or hormonal rhythm feel dirty? You're not indulging in weakness. You're practicing maintenance. 3. Pair it with movement or breath after release. Stretch, walk, breathe deeply. This helps retrain your nervous system to associate climax with restoration, not depletion. In Chinese medicine, orgasm is seen as a powerful energy reset, but only if followed by grounding practices. Modern science is catching up to that wisdom. 4. Write down what you notice. Yes, journal. No one will read it, but you need to. After each release or after a week of abstinence, ask, how did I sleep? How was my mood? Did I feel sharper or duller? Did my prostate feel calmer or more agitated? This trains your awareness to see patterns and adjust. You're not measuring morality, you're measuring alignment. 5. Let go of the should voice. You're not 25, you're not supposed to be, but you're also not dead. Desire doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it's a quiet flame, a whisper, a breath, a pulse. Don't smother it because it's softer. Learn how to hold it differently. You're not rewinding the tape. You're writing a new rhythm, one that fits the man you are now, not the man you were, and not the man anyone else expects you to be. This is